Thank you, Paul.
Is that better? Did you bring your hearing aids? All right, I'm calling the public meeting to order. The purpose of this meeting is for the sale of some property by the town of Glen Rock to Transmission Distribution Service LLC, doing business as TDS Construction, care of Robert Short, for the sale price of $75,000. Appraisal value of the property was $75,000. It was published 3 times in February. So we'll open this meeting for any comments for or against, and we do have 2 representatives here from TDS to take any questions.
Do we want them to come up to the podium and explain?
Yeah, if you got Alan or you and Luke.
All right, so the piece of property that they're talking about is the old lumber yard downtown, past downtown by our existing shop for short power line services, and then the adjacent property that sits right behind our shop on, what is that, Curtis Street?
5th Street.
5th Street?
5th and Arnold.
Oh, sorry, 5th and Arnold, that's right. So our plan is for some economic development on that property. We have a couple of different scenarios that we're working through. And also part of the property will be used for to house existing construction people, an additional shop, as well as materials and equipment.
Okay,
So, any questions?
we'll take any questions.
Yes, please.
Yes, I had heard that there was a proposal to offer that adjoining piece of property down there to the Boys and Girls Club to build their facility down there. If this were in planning, would a commercial development right behind them be of any problem for the operation of the Boys and Girls Club?
Shouldn't be.
Not that I foresee, no.
And it wouldn't
I don't see
bother
any issues.
the planned walking path is
No,
supposed to go
no.
through?
Walking path
no impact on
between
that
both the
whatsoever.
properties.
That would be all
We
right,
own all
too?
that
Yep.
right away between both of them.
That's right, yep.
And with that stuff with Boys and Girls Clubs has been talked about, they've not come back to us with any plans or
We're
anything
not
yet, but it's,
firm on that.
but it's something that's been talked about for possibly building a new Boys and Girls Club here if they can come up with the funding.
That'd be nice.
Mhm.
That'd be really
Would be.
nice.
But are there any other questions for these gentlemen?
How much of that is going to be for storage of equipment?
That's a good question. Storage of equipment, maybe 20 to 25%, if that. I mean, our plan right now is right behind our shop onto 5th Street. We build an additional shop there for additional office space, as well as just light duty work to go through there. Staging electrical equipment inside. We do a lot of pre-winding of electrical equipment, pre-building of electrical equipment, so that would happen inside that area. And then, like I said, about 20 to 25% total of equipment storage.
Are you looking at a new business of any kind? in
Yes.
there?
Yep.
Okay.
2 new businesses.
Okay.
That's what's going to be built on the other 75%.
Absolutely. Yep.
And how will they access that from the street? How will the businesses be accessing that property from the street?
We haven't finalized any layouts on that. Go.
Discussing the
Yeah.
5th Street, really.
Yep. We met this morning with Randy Rumpler to talk about, does it make sense to take a look at 6th Street as an access and egress out of there? So,
So they'll be talking about some proposals.
You
yes.
guys talk a little more about water and sewer service taps.
That's what we meant about this
Absolutely.
I was
morning.
going to say,
Yeah,
because
we got
we
that
definitely
resolved.
want to make sure that
Yep.
that's right before we pave that
Yeah.
street.
Yep,
So-
2 of them are in.
Yep, that's right. So on 5th Street, we'll have one, and then we'll have an additional one coming off of 6th Street, a 2-inch main there.
Okay, cool. That works.
And that cut won't be done until we're ready to move on it, right? I mean,
Correct.
to develop the land. so-
Sure.
Do you have an anticipated time frame for developing the land?
We don't yet. I mean, it was all hinged on when the sale of this would go through and when it would be finalized. So now we have to go back and start working on this process to really, once we take ownership, what it's going to take to get it up and running. So,
That'll probably be included in the contract, right?
Yeah, that would, if pursuant of this meeting, and then what we go through this evening during the regular council meeting, if it's all approved, the attorneys will make up the contracts, and the contracts will be here for me to sign at the next council meeting, which would be the second Tuesday, or fourth Tuesday of the Monday of the month, excuse me. I don't know why I'm stuck on Tuesday today. And we would finish the deal with TDS at that time. If there's no more questions, we'll close this public hearing. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for your time.
And I would like to call the Town of Glen Rock's council meeting to order, and if you stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Is there any additions or deletions to the council meeting tonight?
Just the change, if I could request the items from the floor, we're going to flip the first two,
Okay.
those two that are listed, so.
Okay, I would call for a motion for approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve minutes from last council meeting.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by nay. Motion carries. Reports. Councilman Moulton.
I have none at this time, thank you.
Councilwoman Fong.
I have nothing.
Councilman Kincaid.
Just met with the mayor, the chief, and the clerk on Friday with debate regarding Hawkfest this June, and that was just a routine meeting. Things are flowing pretty good. And I think we'll all get together back in May to finalize everything. So no issues, really.
Councilwoman Munan.
Oh, yes. The coal and energy publication included in the Douglas Budget and the Glen Rock Independent last week was a really interesting read. Cynthia has done a lot of research on this. I particularly enjoyed her article on the Dave Johnson plant. If you haven't read these two publications, you might want to grab an issue of the paper before they go off the shelf. They're really quite interesting with a lot of good local information on energy and coal in there. And then, is this a Tridro? Is that what these people are called?
Trihydro.
Trihydro, oh, all right. The Trihydro quarterly report seemed to indicate that environmental issues are being positively addressed. At the last meeting they had with the council, they made some indication that this area could possibly be considered for some type of industrial use. On that very point, I had an interesting conversation with Commissioner Tony Lehner, who suggested that perhaps the area north of the highway would be a possible value as a solar energy panel farm. At this point, Mr. Lehner indicated that the state does not have many cumbersome regulations on this type of project, but does have environmental concerns, which it appears that are being addressed. A solar panel energy farm could be beneficial financially to Glen Rock, so this might be something to think about. Congratulations to Tammy and Kelly for continuing their education and their training by participating in the WHAM conference at Cheyenne. And as a final note, painting a glass at the Mardi Gras party was not as easy as it looked. Thanks to the library ladies for offering this fun, if challenging, evening. And now I have 3 questions, Mr. Mayor, may I ask you?
Take your best shot.
All right, here we go. Number 1. Now we have passed the 27th of February. What's up with hiring of the fire chief?
Tammy gave me all those applications on Friday during our meeting. I didn't go through all of them over the weekend. I will be getting together my interview committee, which will consist of one person from Crash Fire and Rescue from Natrona County, one from Natrona County Fire, the EMS director of Converse County, and one officer from the fire department, and myself will be the people doing it.
How many did you get?
I believe we had 4 or maybe 5.
Or I think 5.
5, I think total, maybe 4.
We hope.
Well, I saw 4 of them to start with. I didn't see the last one. I've got to go through all of them and take a quick look at them, but most of them had quite a bit of experience, yes.
That's excellent. Okay, number 2, is anything moving on the senior citizens parking lot to get that fixed up there for them?
That ball's kind of still in the senior citizens and the housing's ballpark. I know Artie Schubert was working on that the last time I spoke to him, and he had done some work with Hal Hutchins on that. And he said since Hal does not do engineering for us, that he was wanting to get with us eventually and get a hold of us and set up a meeting. So between the town and our engineers, our engineering firm and stuff could look over what they had come up with, but we have not had any contact from them yet.
Okay.
But it has been discussed, informally between Artie and I.
That's kind of a mess up there. It's kind of ugly.
It could get worse.
I don't want to park up there and fall.
I don't understand what the sub base is there.
All right, number 3, this is it. What is going on with this Sage Park Manor subdivision that apparently the end of this week is the deadline for getting comments into them? That's what it said.
Sage Park?
I've never heard of
Sage
that.
Park Manor.
Oh, Travis's, that's in the county. It came to us for a little bit. I believe when we get to Mr. Gilbert, we've put some question, I didn't know what it was called. I just knew that there was one out there. Since they're right next to this, anything that's within 5 miles of the town, we have a right to make recommendations to the county, whether it makes any difference or not. Usually doesn't make any difference to the county since there's no planning and zoning, but we have going to make several recommendations of what we feel should happen out there, if anything, since it's right against our property, right against the town.
That's
limits.
good. I mean, the golf course doesn't want 15 wrecked cars parked up next to the 9th fairway. I don't think that would do much to enhance its value.
Someplace to sit and watch.
Oh, yeah. and you can go to the abandoned refrigerator and store your beer.
It's part of the old Young property, which was Don Cundall's, Travis. Yeah, he's right there, kind of in the same area where Chad proposed to do what he called the 9th hole, or 9.
Back 9.
The back 9 or whatever. Travis is proposing 5 long lots from the center line of that back to the property, between that to the property line along against the golf course there. Scott's got some drawings of it, but it came to us for some any questions we had about it before it goes back to the special projects manager and back before the commissioners this month. So we went over part of it, and I think Scott's going to discuss that with you when we get to him. I'm glad to find out what the name of it was, because I didn't read that.
Yeah, it's the first we've heard.
That would have been nice.
Did you know that, Scott? You knew that?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Clerk, Tammy.
We had another ACT Workforce Ready committee meeting last week, but Hannah Swanbaum is here. She'll talk to us more about that during items from the floor. And I want to just remind everybody, I could really use the community awards nomination forms, if anybody has any. They're due this week. And I will have tickets, hopefully by the end of the week, for anybody who's interested in going there, $10 each. But the nomination forms would be great, and it would be really nice if they came from the community rather than me. I don't want to pick them all. So if anybody has any of those, they're available online. You can pick them up at Town Hall. And just they're very brief. You really don't have to put all that much effort into it, but it would be very helpful. I'd like to get some people from Glen Rock recognized at that banquet, so that's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for Tammy? If not, we'll move on. Kelly, treasurer.
Just thank you for letting us be participants in WHAM. It was a good conference. A lot of information, some more stuff to come from various people, but it was a really good conference. And did get the sales tax check. It did come down just a little bit from before. Not sure what that's meaning at this point, but we'll look into it. And that's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for Kelly? Not, we'll move on to Randy, Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Crew's been busy with garbage collection, water meter upgrades, sewer washing, sewer cammering for the next project, trying to find where all the service lines are. Equipment maintenance, shop work, and we had a water leak on South 3rd Street that we fixed on Friday. Right down here, if you see the new hole, it was a flare fitting on a corp stop that had given away again. Still waiting for complete drawings for Town Hall, parking lot, the splash pad and all that. I did have a conversation with the owner of CEPI and said we need to move in a timely manner. And so I just got some stuff on the emails tonight. So apparently I woke somebody up. I'll have that stuff to you here shortly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Questions for Randy?
Did get walk path to get anything back on that?
Still waiting for YDOT for notice to proceed. As soon as I get that, we're ready to rock and roll on it.
Any other questions for Randy? If not, we'll move on to building and code enforcement. Scott?
Mayor and Council, since our last meeting, we have 13 new permits issued with a construction value of $44,500. I did close 2 permits out of the last 11 that was open prior to the meeting. To go to the Sage Park, which is a proposal in a county subdivision. There's 5 lots that are 4 acres to 5.5 acres. They're more of a narrow elongation lot that runs east and west. They do border the fairway side of the golf course right up against the boundary line of the town. So in our notice to the county special permits office, we will note in there our ordinance of rural horses, 1. There is only an ingress to that subdivision. There is not a designed egress to it. We will note that as a concern. We'll also note our public concern of water and water quality to those homes, which I feel in my own mind, I think that's going to be the biggest downfall up there. That's where we go. That will be submitted in writing this week to the special permits office. Then I think they have another 3 weeks to make a decision, and it'll probably come back to concerns are, but we got to voice them, and then when it does go to public hearing, myself will be down there to at least voice it again. So.
What about any paving or streets or sidewalks? Things like, kind of like what we talked with Chad about.
It's a rural road, and it'll be gravel. It'll be the same, the county in their subdivisions has the same specifications we have as road base. It will not be paved. It'll be a borrow pit design. It's kind of a dead end into a cul-de-sac. Everything is off of one side of the street, so it's not a split subdivision, one side in.
We're hoping that the county will look at that, especially if there's any ever plans in the future for being annexed on into the town of Glen Rock to meet some specifications that we would require for that to be annexed in.
They indicated that they had a restrictive covenants on that land. Have you seen that covenants, and do you know who would enforce it?
I have not seen the restrictive covenants that's mentioned in that letter. I think that's going to be something that will be developed as they proceed through this. Because there's nothing filed with it now that I can find. I think what they're saying when it becomes a restricted covenants, it'll probably take into consideration of there's like 14 entities that could be involved or affected by this. So I think when they take into consideration all the input, that is where that covenants may be derived from. So, because right now there is not a written covenants for that subdivision that I can find.
Interesting. Thank you.
Any other questions for Scott? If not, we'll move on. Chief Thiel.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Do a quick little show and tell for you guys. You guys are probably tired of hearing Jared and I talk about our Spillman project. That's going to come to an end soon because tomorrow is our go-live date. Well, hearing us talk about, oh my gosh, because this has been
Beginning.
encompassing our lives for so long. One of the things that the system will do for us is a mapping application. This is what the officers and firefighters and EMS personnel will see on their systems. They will be able to see the calls as a location, as a pin map on the map that you see here. You can see that it's picking up, let me get it zoomed in a little bit more. The units that are on duty will actually be showing up on here because one of our fire trucks is always plugged into shore power, and they're listed as on duty while we were doing some training. You can see, it's kind of hard to see here, but the one up above Birch there is a fire truck, and then you can see the ambulance over at the ambulance barn here in town. So this is an example of some of the capabilities of the system. Tomorrow is our go-live date, and I think we're almost as close as we need to be ready to go tomorrow. That's all I got for tonight.
Chief, that mapping system, does that include the whole area that the fire department is responsible from Natural Bridge to the county line? Are they
The
mapping that?
GIS should take care of the whole county.
That should cover everything? They should be able to map the whole thing.
Yep.
Yep, it does the whole.
Just
county,
whole of
all the
Converse
different
County.
zones. In fact, but that's just because that's what Esri, the software provider, has for us. But yes, we've got the whole county mapped, and we can see what's the different zones for law enforcement and fire based upon the actual agency's needs. But yes, the whole county is mapped.
And would they have access to like the mapping of Casper or Natrona County if they needed any to know anything about what's going on the other side of the county line?
No, the mapping doesn't cross over agencies. However, part of what we do have allows us to be able to query other agencies that partake in a system that the Spillman system has called an Insight. So those agencies within Wyoming that choose to participate in Insight allows us to query their information. So for example, I'm pretty sure Sheridan is one of those that participates. So I can run a name that we're dealing with somebody here in Glen Rock, and I can check all the other agencies that participate, and I can see if that person has had involvements with other agencies that have the same system as us and participate in the system.
Natrona County doesn't have that?
Natrona County does have the Spillman Flex system, but I don't think they participate in Insight, do they?
Not currently.
Yeah, the agency has to choose to opt into the program.
Sounds like it'd be nice information to have access to.
It'd be great information to have if everybody participated. That's one of the nice things about the system is the ease of sharing information.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just to mention to that, once we go online, then there's a little more play there for Natrona County that we can say, we have all of Converse County's information if you'd like to share, you know, that might give them a reason to join up with me. So, sorry. I didn't interrupt.
No.
No, it's okay.
So if you get like a 911 call or from a residence or something, when we take that call and stuff, does it highlight an area? So they'll know exactly where to go?
You would see a pin map,
Okay.
pin drop on the map. And
Okay.
then you would also be able, the officer would also be able to use a point-to-point routing system that comes with it.
Cool.
Now, this is not available for the public to look at. This is strictly for the authorized
It's
agency.
strictly for public safety to look at. But if you want to come do a ride-along with me one night, I'll let you take a look at it.
Thank you.
And while we're talking about the map, since they're here tonight, Drone Kings was just part of the short power supply companies. They contracted with the Joint Powers Board to do our, oh, I need to put this back in, I'm sorry. The work to get this system up and running, and their employee Dane Hoovenau has done a great job getting it going for us. So, since Alan's here and Alan's the one that I worked with to get this started, just want to say thanks for the work you guys have done. Thank you. And that's all I have.
Okay. Any more questions for the chief? We'll move on to Jared, IT.
Yeah, mine's short as well. Go live tomorrow for Spillman, so just a lot of preparations for that. In the meantime, I did get the wireless network moved on to the new network. I just have wired connections to finish up, and once go live happens, I'll have a little more time to take care of those. We also, since Johnson Controls came in and got balanced, we do have the HVAC controller on the network now and have been able to get access into that, and so we did set up the building on an initial schedule So town hall's now running on a schedule where it's taken down, most of the rooms at night to 65 degrees and then kicking back up in the morning to 70. And so that should hopefully help see a little bit of savings as we are able to manage the schedule a little bit better. But
Can we get the council chambers on the second and fourth Monday? It'll be a little warmer.
yeah,
It would be
At
nice.
least there's air movement.
Yeah, it's moving around.
I feel it.
Right there. It's really kind of breezy.
Feels pretty
If it gets cold, we move along a little quicker. No more questions for Jared. We will move on to items from the floor, and we'd like to have Hannah Swambon come up first and speak to us about the ACT Workforce Ready program.
Well, thank you all for giving me the opportunity to come kind of share with you what's going on. So my name is Hannah Swanbaum, and I have my own consulting business, and I've been hired by the county to create this ACT Workforce Ready as a county. So it's a county-wide program, and it's a national-wide program, so I'm not creating anything new. But really what it is, it's a 2-year program that we'll be working to get the county certified, and it's to really have a skilled workforce. So it's for those who are currently in the workforce, those who are seeking employment, or those who just want to take the work keys curriculum test. There's 3 different tests, and it just kind of tells you what your job propensities are. So we're hoping to have lower turnover for our employers in the county, small and large. We're hoping to get folks to want to stay here in Commerce County. We want to let them know we have great jobs, and you're fit to do X, Y, and Z, and so let us help you. And so for the next 2 years, I'll be working with employers as well as test takers to get certified, as well as take the test. Currently, you can take the test at EWC in Douglas. They will be our registrar for the county, so we can only have one location. And currently, EWC already has the proctors who are certified and can take the test, so you can take it. And I believe, don't quote me on this, but all 3 tests are about $27. And I know that in Douglas, the students will be taking the tests, and actually the Wyoming Department of Education will pay for those students to take the test. So if that's something that here in Glen Rock we'd like to get going, I'm sure we can figure that out with Cooley. I know he's on the committee as well. So we're hoping to get our students through this test, as well as our emerging workforce and our current workforce. So I'll be around. We're hoping to go live as well, doing a launch in January. So that means that we'll be registered with the national affiliation. You can find us online, and then job seekers or site facilitators who are looking for employment relocation opportunities, they'll be looking at Commerce County, because we'll have this program. So we have about 2 years to get it done.
After they've completed this test, is there going to be any opportunity for any kind of training to be offered to these people for specific skills?
So that's what we're hoping. We're hoping through EWC that we can get some of those skills. So we find that there's a lot of folks who need to go back and sharpen up their skills on communication or writing or whatever it might be, that they're going to be able to offer those classes. So that would kind of be a next step. But yes, we're hoping that we can get that training available.
Are you expecting any particular kind of commitment from people looking for workers to buy into this program or to help you with the program?
So we're hoping that we can get everyone to buy in, any and all, to this program. We'll be contacting some of the larger employers, as well as all the smaller employers as well. And we really want to just get folks first to recognize these certificates. So once you take this test, you'll get a certificate, and it'll say your gold. So there's a bronze, a gold, and a platinum level. And so you'll receive a certificate as a test taker, and then it's just kind of like your GED or your diploma. We're hoping that currently just the first step will be that employers will just recognize that you've taken these skills. So not necessarily require it, but that might be something that those employers someday want to do is require this test.
Will this certificate be good anywhere in the country?
Yes. So the good news is it's nationwide, so you can take it with you. The kicker is it really helps Converse County if we can get folks to take them here in the county, so it counts for our numbers and our national standards and promoting it. But no, you can take it here and move to Texas if you want.
Thank you.
So after they take this and have their certification, do you get this out to some of the employees out there, or employers out there, based on their test scores, or what I'm saying is, can the employers tap into this, looking for folks?
So we're hoping that we can create some sort of network that we can let employers know, hey, there's not a national job pool that says these 5,000 people have taken their work keys certification and have these tests. There's nothing like that, but we're hoping through the enterprise committee that is working through this in the county, we can advertise and we can let folks know and let employers know that we've got folks out there who are qualified for X, Y, and Z.
I think that'd be a good plan for the county.
Yeah. And I would like to say that the tests are confidential. So I won't know any of the results. And if you want to put them on your resume, they do give you a little access code so employers can verify that you've actually taken the test, and if you say you're a platinum, you're a platinum. But that's really up to the test takers if they want to disclose if they've taken the test or what.
Is anyone else in Wyoming doing this program? Oh, we're the
No. So Uinta and Sweetwater started, but they have since not followed through, and so we would be the first to be the first certified county in Wyoming, and really kind of in the region. So it's slowly making its way west. So it'd be really great for Converse County to be able to promote that we've got this program going.
That gentleman, there's a...
Yes, sir.
I've just, in the last month, retired from PP&F out here at the plant. They're asking all their new hires to take that test. They're currently taking it through Casper College.
Okay.
It'd be nice to move it to Converse County. But PP&L is requiring that test even now for their future hires.
Well, and so we can get them hooked up to go to EWC because it's already set up and you can take it tomorrow if you want.
The answer to your question is yes.
Yep, good.
Our power company has been requiring that now for almost a year and a half.
Awesome. So if we could get them connected with you, it'd be sweet.
And we're really just asking for the employers who want to participate right now to just recognize that they've taken their certificate. You can require, but we're not going to be like that. We just really want employers to recognize that there is this certificate and there is this additional training, and we hope to see it as a professional development opportunity for folks who are still in the workforce, or maybe want some retraining, or you just want to see if you're in the right job. So we're hoping to go live in June and then be a certified county by February of 2022.
So the intent is that we educate, we reach out to all Converse County employers, as many as we can, and try to get them to buy in. It doesn't cost them anything, but if they're willing to acknowledge this and go looking for workers that have this certification.
Tammy, that's a good point. It doesn't cost anything to be affiliated with the program as the employer. So we're not asking for money. We're just hoping that you'll recognize it and you'll hire folks who are taking these
And it makes
tests.
it easier for the employers because then they don't, if
For
they
once, we
see
don't
that
want your
somebody
money.
has a certificate, they already know that the person's got these certain qualifications based on the level, and so they know what they're getting. So that's the hope.
Yep.
And it'll get us prepared for any new businesses that are looking for a place to settle. It makes us very attractive.
Yeah. So any other questions? Yes, sir.
If you get a chance, get a hold of Justin Sweet out here in Power Plant.
Yep.
And talk to him about it, because, like I say, Cedar Fork is presently.
I have his card. Yes.
Okay, presently doing that. We've been doing it for about a year and a send people that might be living in Douglas or down country here to Casper to do it. And it creates a hardship for them to take a day off from work and travel there, so we can get that going.
And we were really trying to get like 2 locations to test, but through the national certification, we can only have 1 county. So, so we just figured EWC would be the best spot. So, and they've got the room right now. So, yeah. So I'll probably pop back in probably when it gets closer to June and just let you know kind of what we're doing. We'll have, there's a website that's in the process that'll be tied into the Enterprise's website as well as probably the county's. There'll be a link to the county website since this is a county program. And then there'll be a Facebook page and some social media and stuff. So just look for some of the stuff that's going on. We're hoping to be public and visible and have some employer luncheons. And if you want to just come and listen and meet folks, you're all welcome to come to those. So we'll get those dates out to the public as soon as possible. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hannah.
Okay, moving on to the AML presentation this evening.
Good.
Yeah, great. I'm actually gonna open it up here, so.
I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Lindsay French. I'm the project manager for AML. I'm replacing Melissa Bouts, who's been doing this for a few years. So, yeah. And if you just want to go ahead, I guess I'll introduce you guys.
What's that?
I'll introduce you guys at the end of the 3rd slide if you just want to move forward. Okay. So first, I'll just introduce the Abandoned Minelands program for anybody who's not familiar. We work under the DEQ, and our program exists to mitigate hazards to the public health and safety posed by abandoned minelands. In Glen Rock, we're mostly talking about the underground abandoned mines in the town. The AML program is funded by a federal fee on coal production, and that fee may or may not sunset in 2021. That is in Congress right now, so they may reauthorize the fee, they may not. Either way, we'll still be working past 2022, but if the fee gets reauthorized, we'll be able to continue our work for longer and address more hazards. So, specifically in Glen Rock and across Wyoming, we started to try to be proactive about addressing the risks to the public, knowing that the program won't necessarily last for forever. So we are actively working in Glen Rock, and just for background, we did identify Glen Rock by overlaying existing known mine maps with infrastructure in towns and the observation of subsidence. So that's why we're here. Okay, so tonight I just wanted to introduce everybody to the program who's not familiar and go over the work we did last year and what we plan to do in 2020. Here with me are the consultant that AML has hired. I have Joel James and Dave Hibbard is hiding behind me. They're with Brierly and Associates, and they will more closely go over the work that we've done and what we plan to do this year. Does anybody have any questions for me up front?
That area that you're going to focus on this year?
Yeah, we will be returning to Area H, which most of you know is the Sun Up Road area. We almost finished our work over there last year, and we're going to finish up this year. We're also going to go over to Area M, which is next to 4th and Platte. And those areas will be our concentration for drilling and grouting. We're also going to do some more investigation in Area L, so that we understand the artesian water conditions over there in that neighborhood. Oh, sorry. Area L is going to be the Oregon Trail Estates. So.
Okay. Well, I live up on Sunup Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
I was there when they actually did the test drilling.
Sure.
Out in front of my house, they found 2 great big holes.
Okay.
My driveway is now sunk another 1.5 inches.
Okay.
My house is cracking more.
Okay.
I was told that they were going to get busy and fill that in, and I've seen nothing but them filling down there next to the highway along the right-of-ways down there in. And
Sure.
yet my house is still
Okay.
cracking and going south.
Sure.
So I'm interested if this year you're actually going to work on that before I lose my driveway and the side of my house.
Absolutely. I would love to get more information from you after the meeting.
Give you
Good.
plenty.
That's good.
I was there when they actually drilled it.
Yeah.
My shoulder replaced, so I was there.
Okay.
I'm an ex-driller.
Yeah.
From the coal mines.
All right.
And so I was there while they were drilling it. I know where the holes are and where the caverns were.
Sure.
And it comes right across the face of my driveway into the front of my house.
All right.
And
Yeah.
it'd be, to me, it'd be real interesting for that to be fixed before I lose my house.
That's understandable. Yeah. No, we'd like to do that. And we encourage, if anybody here or if anybody knows of anybody who has a concern about subsidence in the area, please let us know. That's part of the reason that we're here, is to get the word out. And we want you guys to come forward. And yeah, I'll have a card, and I'll give you Dave's card as well.
Actually showed them where the artesian water is coming from. It comes clear across from up above.
Okay.
Down through the channel and actually goes out by Mr. Miller's house.
Sure.
It actually runs right out of the side of the bank over there when we get a rainstorm and that. And so that channel goes across through there. It'd be a really good place to plug that off again before that washes even more.
Sure.
Out under the home.
Yeah. No, let's talk more. Thank you. Anybody else?
Do you consider any of the areas finished or completed?
Ooh, I just got into this town. Luckily, Briarly's been working in Glen Rock for a little while. Dave, will you feel comfortable?
Yeah, definitely. And I think we'll
I'm
get
gonna
into a
let
lot
Dave
of that
take that.
information throughout this presentation. So I would say if you can, reserve your questions until you guys see everything, the
Yeah,
macro picture.
no, for sure.
Thank you, Lindsay. Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name's Dave Hibbard, with Briarly Associates, one of the consultants that AML has picked up, as well as 2 others. Joel James, which Lindsay already introduced, and then we got Taylor, Joe Bell over there as well. We also have Wilburn Engineering. They're also a consultant for AML. They handle more of the insurance claim stuff. So if you guys could think of any questions throughout this the presentation, feel free to reserve them towards the end, and we could direct those to him. So the purpose of this meeting, more or less, is to kind of review the background and the historic coal mine and subsidence events that's taken place within the town since mining happened in the early 19th century. We're going to discuss the 2019 AML mitigation results from last year and what we did. And then we'll discuss the 2020 plans this year as far as what we plan to attack and prioritize. And then we could also address some longer term outlooks as well for the town. So who are we? We're a tunneling and trenchless firm. We specialize in ground improvement and mining. We're a geotechnical and geostructural design firm as well. We have offices in 21 states. We're considered a small business enterprise. We have geologists, engineers, and other professionals on staff. We've been consulting for AML since 2015. And then we specifically specialize for AML in improved grouting subsidence mitigation techniques. So a little bit about the history for those who don't know for the town. In 1847, the first documented coal production happened in Glen Rock. In 1988, that increased to commercial production. Coal was used for domestic purposes, and then in 1909, the mine shut down due to poor roof and too much flooding within the mine, so they shut it down. So basically, we're here because obviously you guys have had a pretty rich history of mining, and subsidence continues to occur. We have seen a few sinkholes here this past year, as well as in the years prior, that are still occurring even after mitigation. So these generally develop after heavy precipitation events in the spring. Generally, those kind of act as a influence more or less to kind of help break the rock down, and then eventually that subsidence will propagate up, and then it'll basically develop as a sinkhole at the surface. So basically we're back to kind of take care of, we're using new technology more or less to kind of help stabilize that a little bit better than what they used in the past. So we're pretty much going through all the areas that we think are affected and trying to prioritize the highest risk. These are the two mines, the two big mines within the town. On the west side, you got the McDonald mine. That's more the downtown Glenrock area. And then on the eastern side, you have the Glenrock number 1 and number 2 mines. So fairly large. You could tell that they take up quite a big area. So, you know, we've had our work cut out for us as far as drilling and investigation. You know, I can say with a good background that we've investigated a good portion of this and feel pretty confident about the extent of this mining. Now we're pretty much at the point of mitigation and trying to assess and prioritize things appropriately as we need to. So this is so basically we'll discuss the 2019 AML mitigation that we did last year. So we'll start with Deer Creek Estates. So this is leftover work that we conducted in 2017. We finished all of this last year. We only had basically the east portion of that property left, and we wanted to make sure through verification drilling that everything was we weren't finding any voids effectively is what it boiled down to. So we drilled a total of 54 boreholes and injected about 2,300 cubic yards of grout within that area. So, and you can kind of tell, it's kind of hard to see, but there's those little circles represent boreholes or places where we drilled. And basically what we do is we drill down to the mine, and we basically we try to see what the mine condition's like, and if we hit voids. We definitely don't want to be hitting voids. What we're looking for after we grout is we're looking to see if there's grout there. So seeing if the grout more or less is expanded horizontally within the mine and is doing what we want it to do effectively. So. The other area where we worked on last year was basically East Birch Street and Sunup. This is a pretty big area, and this will be basically, we'll be finalizing this up this year. Essentially, all we have left are the townhouse, or is it Sunup Rentals, I believe, is that correct? Left remaining, and then just some verification work on Sunup Road, and then we'll be completely done with that area. So it'll be kind of nice to get done with that for you guys. So with that project, we drilled a total of 22,000 linear feet of drilling, and drilled 164 borings, and then injected about 7,400 cubic yards of grout. So average grout take per borehole is about 147 cubic yards. That's quite a bit of grout. If you imagine a single concrete truck contains about 10 cubic yards of grout, imagine 147 of those going underneath the ground. So. We think it's doing what we want it to do. It's spreading out. We use a high mobility grout more or less, and it travels horizontally a lot more than what they've done in the past. They used a really thick grout before, and it didn't really have a capability to expand out. So that's why we're getting a lot of cubic yardage within our mine working, or within the mine itself. So that kind of helps, you know, limits the amount of drilling, and it helps basically mitigate a larger area effectively. So this is a 2019 mitigation pilot program. So in conjunction with Oregon Trail Estates, that's an area, as you can see on the map, it's a little difficult to see. It's basically on the eastern side there, on the eastern extent of the mine, effectively. When we were doing our investigation there in 2018, we encountered a lot of artesian conditions. This was kind of alarming to us because trying to mitigate within those conditions isn't necessarily an easy task. There's a lot of issues with water flowing at 300 gallons per minute. So we more or less needed to conduct a feasibility study to essentially figure out if we could mitigate the mine while dealing with the water. So this artesian pilot program that we conducted was effectively that. So essentially what we learned is basically we're able to discharge water at the same time as we're pumping grout into the ground. So essentially it's kind of developing an equalization underground essentially. So basically we're replacing the water with grout, and it worked beautifully. I think the success of that program was fantastic. And you know, with that, you know, our plan is to go back into Oregon Trail Estates and mitigate that as a whole, but we definitely didn't want to do that haphazardly, essentially. So needed a lot of information and still do need a lot of information. So we understand the density of the housing there is high, and lots of public to worry about. So want to make sure we know what we're doing before we go in there. So with that, we had about 9 monitoring wells with transducers. Can you go back to those pictures real quick, Joel? Thanks. So we had 9 transducers. These are basically what these do is they record the water pressure underground. So we could analyze the pressure of the water while we're pumping grout into the ground. So this gave us a lot of information as far as how to effectively do this. We also set up some discharge wells that you can see on the bottom left of those 4 pictures. So basically we're able to open a valve effectively if the pressure gets too high and displace that water to a pond or wherever we want it. The picture on the bottom right just kind of shows you the artesian conditions and what we're dealing with. That's about 300 gallons per minute. As soon as you plug into the void essentially within the mine, you get automatic water. So definitely very concerning for us. So this is another reason why we wanted to conduct this feasibility study. So.
Are you going to try to drain that water out of the mine, or are you going to try to leave the water in there?
I think, so it's a good question, Gary. We'll save that to the end. I don't want to ruin the surprise. Let's go next, Joel. Just a little bit of the results here. Basically, within this pilot program, we injected about 4,900 cubic yards of grout. Within this area, it was about 1.2 acres of land on Rick Davis's property. It worked out great. This is a great area, just because we also had a pond there, so it was easy to displace the water directly to the pond, and we didn't have to worry about flooding any homes, adjacent homes, or anything like that. So. You could tell, I mean, those yellow circles are representing grout volume. Doesn't necessarily indicate the way the grout flowed. It's just kind of a symbology thing, just to kind of picture, just more or less, imagine where the bulk of the volume is going, essentially underground. Cool.
What were you trying to accomplish there down by the pond?
Go back real quick, Joel. As far as.
Yeah, I know you went down there and you grouted some holes down there and you did a bunch of them.
Yep.
What was you trying to accomplish?
So basically,
There's nobody lives there.
Yeah. So basically, in 2018, we found a lot of these artesian conditions existed in Oregon Trail Estates. So instead of just going down there to mitigate right away and finding out that mitigation didn't effectively work in artesian conditions, we didn't want to really conduct that experiment like there, in a heavy populated area. So we wanted to see more or less, with these similar conditions, can we take this work and more or less replicate this in the busier, in the more public area, see if we could stop prevent any damage, essentially, is what our underlying goal was. So. In 2019, we also had a sinkhole open up on Short Power Lines property. So we also did some immediate response drilling and grouting there. This is about a 3-foot radius sinkhole that opened up. There was a lot of weight on there. What would you estimate the total weight from that forklift was? Yeah, about 30,000 pounds, 3 tons of weight, more or less, sitting on top of this. So we did have quite a bit of weight on here, direct weight, which definitely helped the formation of the sinkhole, essentially. But it just kind of encouraged us, or not encouraged us, but warned us or indicated to us that we should go there and do some more drilling to make sure that we weren't going to have any more issues with that. So with that, we injected about 300 more cubic yards of grout within this small area and filled this hole. So that was definitely one of our target items for 2019. This is kind of a little picture or map demonstrating where it's kind of hard to see. Those yellow circles are representing grout volume again. Go forward, Joel. I'll go ahead and talk about this. Yeah. So 2019, we also conducted some road stabilization in Oregon Trail Estates. This is more or less, yeah, thanks, Joel. And one more. So in 2018, we had some sinkholes open up in Oregon Trail Estates, the roadways, South Pass and Bridgers Crossing. So with that, we conducted a geophysical investigation and found that there were some anomalies showing up beneath the roadway. So basically our immediate plan was to shore up and stabilize the ground to prevent any of these sinkholes from happening again until we can get in there and do the full mitigation work. So that was the goal. It was a temporary goal to basically get the stabilization done before we can get in there, knowing that we were probably going to be delayed until 2021. But we didn't want to leave that risk open to the public. So what we did is a shallow grouting program where we basically drilled 166 holes and we injected about 53 cubic yards of grout. It seems like a small amount, but it displaces into the soil and tightens everything up fairly well. So feel pretty good about it. Do we have a map of that, Joel, on here by chance?
Yeah, it's on the next slide.
Next slide. Oh, okay, great. So this is the southern portion of that of Oregon Trail Estates. So basically these circles, if you could see them, are more or less representing where we injected grout, and then their associated volumes. And then this is the north side. So basically the areas that we covered were the areas that showed a few anomalies within the geophysics report. So the whole road wasn't covered just because it wasn't necessary. So basically the areas that we targeted were the areas that had the most anomalous features. As far as what AML and Brierley plans to do in 2020, our proposed plan is to finish up Sunup Road and East Birch Street. All we have left are the Sunup Rentals and Sunup Road, and then we'll be officially done with all that area. We do have some reclamation work that we're still getting to. We kind of got, winter came early last year, so we didn't really have the amount of time that we wanted as far as reclamation goes, but rest assured we'll be back up here this spring attacking some stuff from last year as well. So what we have planned, we have 66 proposed boreholes to drill there. Some of those are angled borings, which will go underneath the Sunup Rentals property. Our average depth to mine working is about 110 feet below grade, and then the total area is about 3 acres, and then we're estimating about 8,500 cubic yards of grout. The other area we plan on working in is this is what Lindsay mentioned. This is off of 4th Street and Platte, so basically right in downtown Glen Rock, effectively. We have about one more slide, Joel. Have about 310 proposed borings in this area. Again, some of these are angled as well, and also close to housing, obviously. And our proposed depth to mine workings here, this is the McDonald mine, is about 125 feet below grade. And then the total acreage we're looking at is about 7.4. And then we're expecting about 8,500 cubic yards of grout here. So this is immediately north of Short Power Lines yard, effectively.
Are you going to go west of 4th Street?
Yes, we will. Yeah, we didn't want to kind of consolidate all this into one because it's going to be fairly difficult to get in here and do this work, and we didn't want to we wanted to get it done within one season and not kind of spread it out. I think the challenge for us is going to be the density of housing and trying to get underneath some of these structures, and that's going to require obviously a lot of angled drilling. So we're definitely trying to limit our exposure to the private properties of a lot of these houses here. I think some of it's not going to really be possible to do that, but we're definitely going to be trying to limit that as much as we can. The alley there is a good prospect, but we have overhead power lines as well as other utility lines. So it's definitely going to be a challenge, and we didn't want to basically get the stuff on the western side as well because we were, I think we got our hands full here, and we don't want to leave a half-finished project. We kind of want to try to get away from that.
I was wondering if he was going to go towards 6th Street or anything like that.
Yeah, so this is what we call Area M. So we have another area just west of this off of 6th Street, and that's, or no, I guess that would be 5th Street, correct? I think so. That would be area N, so that would be the other area. And then we can go back to another slide, but basically the extent of mining for the McDonald mine doesn't extend beyond 6th Street, so that's effectively where it stops. So.
If the mine map's right.
If the mine map's right, correct. All right, next slide, Joel. The other thing that we plan on doing is this is some instrumentation setup. So basically on top of our feasibility study and the pilot program we conducted last year, to gear up for the full mitigation in this area, we basically want to have our discharge wells set up as well as our shallow monitoring wells with the piezometers. So this is probably going to pay 2 months worth of work, more or less, to set up this instrumentation to kind of gear up and get it ready for 2021. This is kind of an important element because we're also studying groundwater behavior as well. As a lot of people here know, this is pretty shallow groundwater over here. There's some areas where we have groundwater like about 1 foot below grade. So it's very shallow, and especially further north, it gets worse. So having a handle on the water throughout the process of this mitigation is going to be a key element into the success, and we're trying to take it very seriously. So. But anyhow, I guess it is on there. Sorry, presentation's kind of blurring out on me here. But yeah, so if you could see a teal line, essentially we have 5 discharge wells that we're going to be installing on the northwest corner of the development. And basically, we're going to be pushing the water from the southeast side down to the northwest. So basically, all the grout, more or less, will presumably go down dip and then push that water out to our discharge wells, and then we can effectively drain it and replace it with grout. So our hope is that this will also help with some of the water issues down there. So that's the hope.
Where are you going to drain it?
The pond for now.
The pond?
Yep. Unless you need any water, Gary.
That pond is probably in the Flat River drainage.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another good point. So we discharged about 850,000 cubic yards of water, or gallons of water, last year. So quite a bit of water. The good news is we discharged it in the pond. We didn't have to get rid of any of it because more or less the hot summer and the wind helped kind of more or less just take that water out into the atmosphere and helped with all that. I don't think that'll be the case when we're dealing with this big of area in 2021, so we're probably going to have to come up with another plan of attack of what we plan to do with the excess water. So, but yeah, that's a good point.
Does the water level in the pond stay static?
It rose about 1.3 feet throughout our pilot program.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. So we had a lot of freeboard on the side of that pond, so couldn't have really had a more better area to kind of conduct this study at, honestly. So. I guess I'll just ask a general question here to anybody. Is anybody interested in hearing a little bit about the insurance program as far as AML? Okay. Okay. Ken, you want to jump up here and kind of give a little background on this? Actually, before we do that, and I don't mean to cut you off, Ken, does anybody have any questions in regard to the work last year or proposed work for this year?
Sweating.
Yes, sir. Yep. We're. Uh-oh.
Is your shoulder good enough for that now?
Yeah. He's getting called out.
Again, I didn't, as you were talking, I didn't hear you say anything about going up that hill.
Can you do me a favor, Joel, and go back a few slides, and I'll kind of discuss our methodology for prioritizing some of our reclamation work. That's good.
Come look at my house.
We definitely will.
And they took pictures.
Yep.
And they're worse. And getting worse.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the driveway's cost.
You're underneath the AML insurance program, is that correct?
I signed up for it.
Okay.
They said it was 1 year. And that's been almost a year ago since we did that.
You should be up for renewal here. Basically, this is a map of Glenrock. You can kind of see where the extent of mining is. You're referring to Sunup Ridge, right?
I'm Williams Way.
Williams Way? Okay.
And, like I say,
Yep. It's fairly shallow out there. The way we try to
107 feet.
170 feet, yeah, that's shallow.
107
Yep. What we try to do is kind of prioritize the mitigation by areas of most risk. For us, as soon as we got to started working with the abandoned mine lands, Highway 26 was the immediate concern. Obviously, a lot of public transportation was a big deal, just for public safety. After that, basically, we were dealing with areas in which we're looking to have development, future development, and the game plan on that was more or less to get ahead of the building. It would be a lot cheaper for the state to mitigate that area prior to having housing development on it first and then mitigating it after. So that was kind of the plan there. What we found on Williams Way is the ground is relatively stable and it's dry. The key word is dry. So.
When they drilled into it, they never quit pumping water, so it's not real dry.
Huh, interesting. What time of year was it?
About this time last year.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I think, what we should do, so we got Area L, Oregon Trail Estates. That's a pretty big priority for us. It's never been mitigated before. Glen Rock has been mitigated on 2 occasions prior in the 80s and 90s. That area has never been touched, and I presume the reason why is because it's all artesian conditions there, and as soon as they did their first borings in the 90s, they realized real quick that artesian conditions are going to be difficult to mitigate in. So I think as far as a prioritizing sake, from an engineering perspective, I think that's one of the areas of highest risk for us. So we kind of try to categorize everything by risk. The good news is all the investigation has been done throughout the town, so we have a really good baseline to work off of as far as how to kind of move and mobilize around for the following years, essentially. But it does make me concerned as far as the, what you're seeing, some of the development and degradation, I guess, of the structure. So we should definitely get your number here and take a look at that property as soon as possible, yeah. Have you been taking pictures of that throughout?
They actually took ports and pictures. Went through the house, all the pictures there.
Okay.
And then let's say the cracks are almost double the size they were. The driveway's dropped them into half. One of my houses,
Interesting. Are you right by the drainage in that culvert? So where the culvert drains under the side of the hill?
The culvert's there, there's a house, there's quarters, there's an empty lot on the next house.
Okay. I got some stuff to talk to you about.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Yes, ma'am. So if we go back, let's go back a few slides, Joel. I guess we'll go back to the first project here. Couple more down.
Go down?
Yeah.
Which one do you want?
Basically the first mitigation we did here.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Deer Creek Estates, this is about a $3.5 million job for this area, and that's the entirety of what you see here within this red polygon. Basically, the presumption was they were going to be developing this, and AML was being proactive to try to mitigate this before the full development. This was in 2017, so in 2019, more or less, our job was just to kind of finish that work and get that completely done and out of their way, essentially. So yeah, that was about 3.5 million, and I could send you these actual numbers. I'm just kind of throwing some ballpark numbers at you, just so you know. East Birch Street here, this is about a $4.5 to $5 million mitigation project here. So on average, I would say mitigation costs are about $550,000 per acre, if that's any consolation. Kind of, if you're looking at this is about a 4.7 acre property. So within the realm. So it's definitely not cheap. We're trying to figure out ways how to do this smarter and not come back for a fourth time. I think that's our overall goal. We have a lot of integrity as our company goes, as far as doing it right and making sure we're taking our time and not rushing anything. The last thing we want to do is induce any type of subsidence or sinkhole features. So it's definitely a long process. It takes a lot of time, and try to do it right, and try to work with as many people as we can, because we understand this is not easy for us to be here, and it's the patience is tiring. I completely understand, but we're doing what we can. And, you know, I encourage anybody has any questions regarding any of this, you know, please reach out to me or Lindsay French. We'd be more than happy to answer anything for you in regards to that, so. Yep. Anybody else?
Can I, would you be able to share this with me, that maybe I
Are
can?
you all right with that, Lindsay?
The presentation?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we could do that.
I can put it on the website so
Sure.
people can spend more time.
Yeah, that'll be great, actually.
So we need
One with me.
flooring in a brand new pavement. Do you have a way to how to fix it correctly?
Okay. Yeah, I want to talk to you about your current contractor, by the way. Yes, who's doing that, so I have some questions.
Okay.
So maybe we can get together. What do you think? What's your week look like?
You know,
Okay.
I'm available.
Okay. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Ken Wilbert here from Wilbert Engineering.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Ken Wilbert. I'm with Wilbert Engineering. I've been coming to your town now for 2 or 3 years doing these inspections. I'd like to encourage you as a governing body that whenever you have questions regarding this work and what damage it could cause, please encourage your constituents to reach out to AML. And I'm going to leave some brochures with you that talk about the AML Subsidence Insurance Program. And in this brochure are contact information. Lindsay French is the project manager for that. So if your constituents have any concerns, please call. Don't tell us after the fact. Tell us while things are occurring. And with you, sir, we inspected your house. We were there for several hours, if not a whole day. And so please call. We're here to help. So don't suffer in silence. So let us know. So anyway, I'm going to leave these here. So anyway, we make it a policy. AML has established a policy to get out in front of the activity that they're planning to do in an area. So we send out letters to all the homeowners in the area, telling them what's going to happen, and then offering them subsidence insurance. It's free. It's paid for by the state, but it's free. But what we have to do, we have to get them signed up, and we have to inspect the house, as this gentleman here said. We have to inspect the house and document pre-existing conditions so we know what's there at policy inception. Once we do that, then that policy is in effect. It's good for 1 year. However, AML has made it a policy to keep that policy in effect as long as they're working in the area. So this gentleman is still covered even though we did this a couple of years ago. It automatically renews by AML. So as long as AML is working in the area, their policy is in effect. But they've got to get signed up. There's no cost. We just need a couple hours of their time in order to inspect it. And we have found, I'm from Rock Springs, and you've probably heard a lot of things about Rock Springs, and we've learned a lot of things about how to do things correctly in Rock Springs. So one of the things we do, though, is we like to get out in front of the work and talk to people, get them covered by the insurance because it documents what's there and what's not. Believe it or not, when a drill rig pulls into a neighborhood, as soon as that mast goes up, that becomes a lightning rod to everything in that neighborhood, to everybody and everything. And you'll be surprised the comments that come out about what they know, what they found out about cracks in their house and what's happened to their house. So that's why we like to get out in front of that, document what the condition of that house is, so going forward, we know if it was pre-existing or not, if it was caused by the AML subsidence program or not. So that's something we like to do. So I'm going to leave these brochures with you. I'll just, if you can hand these. And there's contact information there, and please feel free to hand those out to your constituents. If anybody has any questions, you can give those to them, and that way we can try to keep the public informed and also address their concerns. Can I ask you any questions?
How do we make a claim, Ken?
You did.
I did?
Yeah.
All right.
Same way you did a couple years ago.
All right, well, I want to level my building. I got Blackburn coming in to look at it this spring.
Okay.
And how do I make a claim on that?
I'll give you a form.
Okay, that's what I need.
You got to have paperwork.
That's what I'm looking for.
Okay, I've got them in my briefcase. Okay, that's what we need to do. But anyway, there is a process. So and I'll just go into that. If you have concerns, call the number in the brochure, call AML, then they will assign an engineer, myself or another engineering firm, to come and look at that and determine the validity of the claim. And so from that, the process starts. So we do have to have, first we have to have this pre-policy inspection, which documents the condition, a lot of pictures, a lot of diagrams, and then we know what's there and what's not. It just makes everything more clean cut that way. So anyway, there is a process. Any other do I have questions from your body?
The area that you're going to be working in, do you send notices to the homeowners?
Yes.
About this insurance that they can sign up for?
Yes, yes. I don't know how many hundreds we've sent out. Generally, we get about a 50% return as far as showing an interest.
Yeah, I went through it with you, Ken.
Okay.
You came to my house last year.
Oh, yeah. How are you?
We've been getting
3 hours,
inquiries
3.5
about
hours.
the,
You know.
people working trail, but getting it here just recently.
So if you have questions, you can certainly call. I try to leave my business card with all the people we inspect. So if something comes up after the fact, call me and I can get the process started.
So if someone does not sign up for this insurance prior to the start of the project, and their driveway falls in a big hole, they're on their own?
If they've been offered insurance, yes, because we make it a point to go through and we document our contacts with people. And generally, if they simply refuse or not interested, we consider that a tacit approval and that they don't want it and they don't concern. It's like if you don't sign up for fire insurance for your house and it burns down, what's your recourse? Same thing.
You do make a couple attempts though, right, Ken?
Oh yeah, we make several attempts. We make several attempts. It's just not a one-time thing. So we try to contact them by letter, by phone, and by doors. And we put door hangers on their doors with a number to call. Sometimes we get a response, sometimes we don't.
Do you find any particular reason why people don't want the insurance?
Privacy. Privacy, we've had people want it, but then they say, well, we don't want you in our house. Well, okay, I understand that. So, I mean, but we have to do our thing. And so a lot of them just don't, I just don't know. I just don't know for sure. But we're working in Hannah right now. We're working in Rock Springs, Buffalo, Sheridan, all around the state. And it's a common phenomena. It's free, but it's something we have to do. Don't know. I think it's maybe some independence. You know, maybe they don't want to be bothered with it. Maybe they're skeptical of insurance. I don't know. If you find out, let us know, okay?
Free insurance, like, wow.
Well, yeah, that's just it, you know. Yeah, it's true.
And also maybe worth mentioning that if anybody changes their mind, it's not too late to take advantage of it. So if we're in the middle of a project and you decide you want insurance, then we'll come and do an inspection.
Yeah. Just,
If you don't get the insurance, I think some people are under the impression that you're not gonna drill in their yard. You know, if you get the insurance, that gives you guys the right to drill in their yard, isn't that right?
well, for us to go onto your property, it's our policy that we want to insure you because it protects you and it protects the program. So if you're not covered, we won't access your property.
I think that's what stopped the people from doing it.
That's right. And it could be.
Yeah, I already talked to one fellow
Could be.
like that. He said they came down and drilled back in the 90s, and the only thing they did is a bunch of gray water come out of the ground and made a mess,
Yep.
and they left.
Yep.
He says he doesn't want that to happen again. So that's the reason he wouldn't sign up for the insurance.
Yeah, it's an established AML policy that to protect the program as well as the homeowner, we have to have the insurance in place because we try to continue to learn from each project. We try to learn as far as what works and what doesn't. And by insuring the property ahead of time, it just establishes a baseline of what's what and what's not. So if they don't sign up, then we won't go onto that property. Okay. Other questions?
Now, if you're not going to go on their property, can you do this parallel drilling stuff?
Do the angle drilling?
Angle drilling underground from across the street anyway?
I'm gonna defer that to the engineers that are doing that.
if the people do not sign up for the insurance, they say like, stay off my property, thank you. Can you go across the street and do the angle drilling under their property anyway?
We could. We try to respect more or less the consent that they provided us to. It's not to say that our grout won't flow underneath the property when we inject it under pressure, so there's a high probability of that. And we kind of, more or less have used that in the past when we have, consents for the entire area in which we're mitigating, except for one house in the middle. So generally, sometimes we'll try to angle borings, not, maybe 10 feet, to their property line and try to attack it that way. But that's another valid point. That's a good reason why people should more or less sign up for the insurance and consent for investigation, because even though this insurance, you might think that it's protecting you against AML work, what it's also protecting you from is more or less subsidence events that could take place in the future. So you just never know when they're going to take place, and obviously the extent of mining within the town is pretty extensive, and lots of work has been done here, but I think that we got a pretty good plan of attack as far as our technology goes to get it done right this time. So
I think I'll just clarify one thing too. If you do consent to an insurance inspection to get the free insurance, that is not consent to let us come up to your property with equipment and do construction. So you can have it both ways. You can have free insurance, and we will stay off of your property and stay in the right of way. So
I think a lot of people don't understand that.
sure.
Yeah, that's what happened at my house. They stayed out in the street.
Most of the north side this time will be from the street.
Before the driller, before the contractor will access the property to do any kind of work on site, AML requires the engineer and everyone to get a consent for reclamation from that property owner. And that is spelling out what they're going to do as far as coming onto the property. They're going to show them, the owner, where the drill holes will be placed. So that is another form, another piece of paper that has to be signed in addition to the subsidence insurance application. Totally separate form. That's a consent for reclamation. So that allows that contractor to come onto that property. And if the property owner doesn't want it, he doesn't sign. I mean, it's not compulsory. Not compulsory. But as Lindsay said, you can get the insurance, but still keep contractor off your property.
I thought you guys did well respecting us with our traffic flow in our business. Thank you. I mean, you guys did an excellent job, so I wanted to.
yeah, I mean, thank you. No, I mean, that's what we try to do as our company in representing AML, is try to be as respectful as we possibly can be to everyone's property. So that's one thing that we really try to go above and beyond on. And we hope to kind of continue that. It helps having good relationships and good, dialogue with the owner, the property owner. It makes things generally go a lot smoother. So thank you guys for that. Your job fairly easy in that regard. So
Yeah, our fourth was still.
yeah, hopefully it doesn't happen anymore. So yeah, I mean, if anybody has any questions regarding this work, definitely encourage you guys to ask. I'll have my card out here. I'll just leave some cards up here that you guys can grab on this table here, and I think one of you will have some cards as well as Ken. So feel free to reach out to us. So if you see us around town, ask questions. If not,
Thank you. I'll go ahead and ask, is there any other items from the floor before we move on with business?
I don't know whether this is the right time or place. I'm Sam Evans. I'm here with also trying to represent the Converse County Senior Citizens Board. I'm the chairman of that board. And one of the questions earlier, the parking lot up there at the senior center, there's 3 entities involved in that parking lot: the city, the senior center, and then the apartments. So we're trying to work through all the paperwork and that to get that taken care of.
Yeah, Artie and I have had several long discussions about it, and he said when they get all that kind of lined up, then we can all get together and have a
Right.
discussion on it, Sam.
And I've asked a local contractor to look over the dirt compaction drilling that they done last year and see what they're thinking that we might need to do to mitigate some of the soft spots in that parking lot and put some drainage back to it. So to answer one of your questions that you were asking, that's the answer to that. So if you have any questions for the senior center, let me know, and I'll see if I can get you an answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Okay, moving on to new business, the sale of property to TDS. Under this proposal of that, this does fall under a state statute of, what is it, 15-1-12, 15-1-13A, I believe. So, we all have the paperwork in front of us. Does anybody want to make a motion on the first for the pursuant of Wyoming statute, section 15-1-112B, ID, Transmission Distribution Services LLC, doing business as TDS Construction and purchasing the property which the governing body determines to be a benefit the economic development of the municipality? Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we accept it.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by nay. Motion carries. On the second motion is for we to enter into a contract that the contract goes up for a vote at the next council meeting. Is there a motion?
I move that we enter into a contract, and that contract goes up for vote at the next council meeting.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by nay. Motion carries. We will have the attorneys get the contract taken care of, and we'll bring it up for a vote at the next council meeting, gentlemen. Thanks for coming in and answering questions for us.
Will we be able to see that contract, I mean, a couple days before the council meeting?
Yeah, it should be in our packet for everybody to look at.
It'll be in the packet on Friday, but we can get it to you.
We can get it out probably a
When we
little
have it.
earlier so everybody can see what it's consisting of.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay. Under, let me see, I gotta flip clear back here. The other thing under new business is an open container permit for the Shoreliner. Melissa.
Just one night. Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Melissa Hirschley. I'm here representing the Shoreliner. We are doing a fundraiser, spaghetti dinner, live auction, silent auction, and then Chase Mangus will be here that night of the 21st of March to play. We are doing a fundraiser for Ross and Misty Allen. On the early morning of February 21st, they lost their business, burnt completely to the ground. They employ, I believe, 7 employees, and they are not working at all right now. They have insurance, but they're waiting on their insurance, and Ross and Misty are huge supporters of the community. They're both coaches. A little bit of love, and let them all know that we care about them and that we want to see nothing but the best for them, obviously, as they run 2 businesses. And so we are looking to do an open container in our parking lot from 5 to midnight because we have almost 200 people that have RSVP'd to this event. And the Shoreliner will not hold 200 people. So we're looking at putting a tent in the parking lot and just allowing people to be outside to eat and obviously have their drinks if they want to.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve this open container permit, and thank you for offering this family their help.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I'm sorry, Mayor, I was just making
I
sure
forgot
that
to
the
give
actual
him the
date is
updated
on the permit
It is
Yeah, it
not.
says March 21st.
Does it?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Tammy.
I didn't get a copy of it, that's.
Yeah, date and
Sorry, I
hours is
didn't
5
put it
PM
on
to
there.
midnight, March 21st is actually on the line, yes.
Sorry, didn't mean to delay.
Nope, I seen your thumb come up, I thought, wait a minute, I better make sure that we're covering everything for questions.
And Chief Theal, I just put midnight as a general. We can go earlier. We can go 11 o'clock. We can go 10 o'clock, whatever you want. You tell me.
I'm good with midnight. It's the council who approves this and they get the heat. So,
Okay.
you know.
Okay.
Let's go for 1:30.
Just as long as we know when it's
Let's
done.
not go for 1:30. I don't want to be in that parking lot till 1:30 in the morning. Thank you.
Are you gonna
I
have
got a
barriers
motion.
around?
We'll put it up just like we do during Deer Creek Days. You won't be able to come in that Birch Street entrance. So essentially, it'll be from the front door of the Shoreliner where the lean-to is to that Birch Street entrance. It'll be that section right there. It'll be completely contained. We'll make sure that we have barriers.
Do you have a backup plan if that's the day of the spring blizzard?
Bundle up.
There you go.
We do. We have a tent with sides on it, and we have a couple of people with the propane heaters that look like street lamps. So we're gonna make sure that there's a heat source and everything out there.
Okay, any more questions?
You don't drink hot damn.
Wait, get a second. I heard the first motion.
I seconded
You
it.
seconded it? Okay.
Moved and seconded. Hearing no more discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
Melissa. Moving on to next item of business, I believe is bills and claims. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion, we pay our bills.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by nay. Motion carries. I would ask somebody to entertain a motion for adjournment if there is nothing else to come before the council meeting
I
tonight.
move we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that.
It has been moved and seconded, and I believe there's going to be no discussion, so I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
My bedtime, man.
It was a 2-hour meeting.